Germany isn't just losing the war, it's losing something far more catastrophic, an entire generation of men. And the desperate measures they took to fill the ranks, they're beyond anything you can imagine. Stay with me, because the numbers alone will shock you, but it's the human stories behind those numbers that will haunt you forever. By 1944, just 5 years into the war, over 3 million German soldiers are already dead. 3 million! To put that in perspective, that's roughly the entire population of Berlin at the time, just gone, erased from existence. And here's what will really make your heart sink. This number is about to get much, much worse. But these aren't just statistics on a page. Each one of those 3 million was someone's son, someone's father, someone's brother, someone's husband. Each one left behind a family that would never be whole again. The Eastern Front has become what soldiers are calling the meat grinder, and they're not exaggerating. At Stalingrad alone, the Germans lost an entire army. Over 300,000 men killed, wounded, or captured. An entire army. Imagine that. Imagine sending 300,000 young men to fight, and virtually none of them coming home. Then came Kursk in the summer of 1943, the largest tank battle in human history. Another bloodbath. Hundreds of thousands more casualties. The creme de la creme of German armored divisions obliterated in the Russian steppes. And here's where it gets truly insane. Adolf Hitler, the man responsible for all this death and destruction, is offered multiple opportunities to negotiate peace. Multiple chances to stop the bleeding, to save what's left of Germany's youth. What does he do? He refuses. Every single time. Instead, in February 1943, his propaganda minister, Joseph Goebbels, stands before a massive crowd at the Berlin Sportpalast and delivers one of the most chilling speeches in history. The hall is packed with 15,000 fanatics, and Goebbels, with that distinctive sharp voice of his, screams into the microphone, "Do you want total war? Do you want it, if necessary, more total and radical than anything we can even imagine today?" And the crowd, these ordinary German citizens, they roar back, "Yes, yes, yes." They have no idea what they're cheering for. They have no concept of the hell that total war actually means. But they're about to find out, and it's going to cost them everything. Now, here's where things go from tragic to absolutely desperate. By late 1944, Germany has a massive problem. They're fighting on multiple fronts. The Soviets are steamrolling from the east, the Americans and British are pushing from the west after D-Day, and Italy has already collapsed in the south. They need soldiers, lots of them. But here's the thing, they're running out of men. So what do? They start scraping the barrel. And I mean really scraping it. They create something called the Volkssturm, the People's Storm militia. And get this, they start drafting boys as young as 16 years old. 16! These are kids who should be worrying about school exams and their first crushes, and instead they're being handed rifles they can barely lift and sent to face Soviet tanks who've been fighting their way from Stalingrad to Germany's doorstep. Let me tell you about one of these boys. His name was Heinrich. And yes, I'm going to call him by name because he deserves to be remembered as more than just a statistic. Heinrich was 16 years old, from a small town outside Munich. He loved drawing and wanted to be an architect. His mother begged the recruitment officers to leave him alone, told them he was all she had left after his father and older brother died on the Eastern Front. They didn't care. They took him anyway. They gave Heinrich 3 days of training, and I use that word loosely. They showed him how to load a rifle, how to throw a Panzerfaust anti-tank weapon, and that was it. 3 days. Then they sent him to defend Berlin against battle-hardened Soviet troops who had been fighting their way from Stalingrad to Germany's doorstep. Heinrich died in April 1945,
in the ruins of Berlin, probably terrified out of his mind. He never got to be an architect. He never got to fall in love, never got to have a family of his own. He became another casualty in Hitler's insane total war. And Heinrich wasn't alone. There were thousands like him. Thousands of boys who should have had their whole lives ahead of them. But it gets worse. They're also conscripting men up to age 60. 60! Grandfathers who fought in World War I are being pulled back into uniform to fight in World War II. Men with arthritis, bad backs, failing eyesight. Doesn't matter. If you can hold a gun, you're in. Meanwhile, in the factories, they're using foreign laborers and prisoners, many of them essentially slaves, to keep production going. But here's the cruel irony. They need soldiers more than they need factory workers, so they're even taking men out of essential war production to send to the front lines. It's a death spiral, and everyone can see it except the leadership.
In 1939, when Germany invaded Poland, the Wehrmacht was a professional, well-trained force. The average soldier was in his early to mid-20s, physically fit, properly trained, and led by experienced officers who knew what they were doing. They were a formidable fighting force, and that's putting it mildly. But fast forward to 1944, and the transformation is shocking. The average age of German soldiers has risen dramatically. Many divisions now include men in their mid to late 30s, even their 40s. These aren't professional soldiers anymore. They're fathers, shopkeepers, teachers, farmers, all thrown together in hastily formed units. And here's the real killer. Experienced officers are dying at an alarming rate, and they're irreplaceable. You can train a new soldier in a few weeks or months, but you can't replace a veteran officer with years of combat experience. Those men are worth their weight in gold, and Germany is losing them by the hundreds. There's this heartbreaking story about a German officer named Major Klaus von Stauffenberg. Not the famous one who tried to kill Hitler, but a different Stauffenberg who fought on the Eastern Front. By 1944, he was commanding a battalion where the average age was 37 years old. He wrote in his diary, "I look at the faces of my men and I see fathers trying to remember how to load their rifles. This is not an army anymore. This is a funeral procession." He died 2 weeks after writing that entry. The uniform that once symbolized German military might and precision now hung on the bodies of exhausted old men and terrified boys. The crisp, intimidating look of the early war Wehrmacht had been replaced by a ragtag collection of soldiers in ill-fitting uniforms, many of them patched and repaired because even producing new uniforms was becoming difficult. By mid-1944, the situation goes from desperate to catastrophic. Allied bombing campaigns are absolutely devastating German cities. Hamburg, Dresden, Cologne, Berlin. These aren't just military targets. These are civilian population centers being reduced to rubble. Hundreds of thousands of civilians are dying. Entire city blocks are being erased from existence in single nights of bombing. Supply lines are being disrupted. Factories are being destroyed. The infrastructure that keeps an army functioning is falling apart. And yet, Hitler's orders remain the same. No retreat, not one step back. The results are predictable and horrifying. When the Allies land at Normandy in June 1944, German defenders fight bravely, many of them knowing it's hopeless, but they're simply overwhelmed. Entire divisions are encircled and destroyed in the Falaise pocket. Tens of thousands of casualties in just weeks. On the Eastern Front, the Soviet summer offensive, Operation Bagration, is even worse. It's the single largest defeat in German military history. Army Group Center is completely annihilated. Over 300,000 casualties in just 2 months. The Soviets are now racing toward Berlin and nothing can stop them. I want you to imagine being a German soldier in late 1944. You know the war is lost. Everyone knows it.
Your friends are dead, your family at home is probably dead from bombing raids, and you're being ordered to hold positions that are clearly indefensible. But if you retreat, you might be shot by your own side for desertion. If you surrender, who knows what awaits you, especially if you're on the Eastern Front. That's the nightmare these men were living every single day. By May 1945, when Germany finally surrenders, the final death toll is almost incomprehensible. Over 5 million German military personnel are dead. 5 million. Let that sink in for a moment. That's more than the entire population of Norway at the time. An entire country's worth of people just gone. But here's what really breaks my heart. The youngest soldiers who died in the final weeks of the war, those 16-year-old boys drafted into the Volkssturm, they were born in 1928 or 1929. They were babies when Hitler came to power. They grew up knowing nothing but Nazi propaganda, and they died defending a regime that had stolen their childhoods and their futures. The human toll shattered an entire generation. Towns across Germany where almost every family lost someone. Schools where entire classes of boys never came home. A generation of fathers who never got to meet their children. A generation of children who grew up without fathers. And perhaps most tragically, so much of it was completely pointless. Military historians generally agree that Germany had already lost the war by late 1943, certainly by mid-1944. Every death after that point achieved nothing except adding to the body count. Those boys like Henrik, those grandfathers pulled from retirement, those experienced officers, they all died for a cause that was already lost, led by a madman who refused to accept reality. This is what total war actually meant. Not glory, not honor, not victory, just death on an industrial scale. The complete consumption of a nation's youth in the fires of war. If we don't remember these stories, if we don't understand the true human cost of war and fanaticism, we're doomed to repeat these mistakes. These weren't just numbers. These were real people with real dreams, real families, real lives that were cut short. If this video made you think, if it made you feel something, then I've done my job. Please hit that subscribe button because we need to keep telling these stories. We need to remember the faces behind the statistics. We need to ensure that future generations understand what total war really means. Drop a comment below telling me what shocked you most about this story. And if you know any family stories from World War II, share them. Every voice, every memory matters. Until next time, remember history so we never repeat it.